Hello all, and welcome to a post-work beer review. I think I finally figured it out. So it kind of looks like I have a diffuser light shining on me, like a YouTube professional. But no, it is simply just a desk lamp pointed at a white wall. Seems to work pretty well though. I mean, the camera's staying in focus now, and I look sharper than I ever do during like my regular videos. I guess because like the eye and the beer, the subjects are being lit by a decent amount of light, but not too much light, is like, yeah, it took me over 10 years to go and figure this out. But then um, I never really thought about it until recently because it was driving me crazy how often it was getting blurry. So, yeah. Anyways, what are we reviewing tonight? Reviewing another beer from Hana. Probably going to be reviewing a lot of beers from Hana because they produce so many beers. And that are easily accessible. I can just go to like Tamura's and get it. I don't have to go to like, the specialty bottle shop or the tap room to go and get it. So yeah. On the negative side, yeah, they're kind of expensive, but yeah, it is what it is. This is what my hobby is. Well, one of my hobbies, and only two of my hobbies actually cost money, real lots of money. Feeding birds in the park does not cost too much money. Going to the library and borrowing books does not cost too much money. Guitar lessons cost some money, but yeah. Anyways, what's this one from Hanakoa? It's Rooftop Pale Ale. This is 5.2 ABV, and it is of course a pale ale. Okay, I'm going to read this here. To all of the dreamers, our first conversations of our dreams about building this brewery were spent on a rooftop drinking pale ale, dosed with a healthy amount of mosaic and equinox, I guess that's supposed to be equinox goodness. Pilsner, Vienna, and caramel carry notes of sweet biscuit to the palate. This is in remembrance of not putting a ceiling on your wildest dreams. It's good to have a pale ale every now and then, a nice, benchmark style. So yeah, let's just go and pour this out already, huh? Because I'm hungry and I want to go and have some nachos. Oopsie. Ooh. Well, I didn't get my work pants at least. Okay. Perfect pour, about a finger's worth of white head. A nice golden yellow with some orange tinges to it. Carbonated enough for the style. With a fluffy white head. It is redolent of dank. Dank. This is dank forward. Underneath that, some tropical fruit notes and grapefruit. And yeah, biscuity malts. Fairly sweet smelling malting underneath. Okay. Onto the palate now. Mm. So the hopping is fairly, it's fairly hop forward there. But it definitely stays within the level of pale ale, American pale ale anyway. Top notes are ozone and dankness. Doesn't really have much of those tropical or fruity notes in the top note. I can tell you the stuff that's sprayed on my arm though, fairly sticky. So I can tell you that there's a high residual sugar content in there, but you don't really taste it. So, Some slight melon-like notes in the mids. And the hoppiness kind of kicks in again towards the finish. A moderate amount, kind of almost like a grassy top note at that point. Fairly refreshing. Definitely feels heavier than 5.2. Mouthfeel wise, but alcohol wise, yeah, I can see it being like around 5.2. It just feels it has some heft and some chew to it. When was this brewed, by the way? The dankness is just really intense. In the nose and up front. Yeah, I don't see a date on it, but that's okay. So I'm guessing it's pretty stiffly hopped, but it's balanced by fairly high gravity malting. There's lots of sugars in there, so it kind of comes across as well balanced. Um, it's just at two extremes. You know, Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. When I said melon-like notes, I meant kind of like cantaloupe or honeydew. Just there briefly in the mids. On the palate, maybe a little bit in the top note too. But then intense sort of grassiness and subtle resininess in the long finish. I have to say, this is a fairly solid pale ale. It's not really pushing into IPA territory. Um, either with the hopping or with the alcohol content, definitely still feels like a pale ale, but having enough of a twist to it as like, yes, this is its own thing. It's not going to blend in with the other American pale ales. Not that an American pale ale is like a flagship anymore. I think only Sierra Nevada is like the only one that still has like a pale ale as a flagship. And none of the local brewers really has a pale ale as a flagship either. Now that I think about it, yeah, even Maui Brewing's dropped their pale ale. Yeah, this is a pretty decent American pale ale. If you can get your hands on this, give it a shot. Especially if you're like me and you're a fan of dank, bouquet notes and flavor notes. It's one of my favorites. No further comment. But yeah, and as it's warming up, a little bit more of that fruit's coming out on the palate in the mids to finish. Just unique and fairly solid. Yeah. Hana Brewing Company, Rooftop Pale Ale. It's been a while since I've had like a nice, solid American pale ale that's not like pushing itself into IPA territory, I find. And that, folks, is your beer review for this evening. Cheers.